So with the completion of the 2024 season, I just wanted to look ahead and list some quarterbacks who I think deserve starting roles in 2025. And I think whether through a trade or signing guys in free agency, I am going to list a team I think they would be a good fit for. And I think this could be great in terms of something like a 1-year deal just to see how it goes. And I don't think this would heavily conflict with the NFL draft as well, because teams would still want to take a year for their rookie quarterbacks to develop. And we did see this through the likes of Drake May or Penix Jr., where they weren't immediate starters, but they did come in later. So I think this could be a good hybrid option too for teams that are even going to get a first-round quarterback draft pick. But starting with Sam Darnold, I do think he is going to be the most seeked upon free agent next year, just given what he did with the Vikings. I think that his 14 wins are really impressive. I don't think he's likely going to stay there, although it is a chance, but the Vikings likely would go with J.J. McCarthy next year, and if that is the case, his strong arm would really be seeked upon by a lot of teams needing quarterbacks. And I really think what he did with the Vikings in terms of turning their season around as opposed to last year, even though they do have a lot of good players around him, the Vikings really weren't anywhere near where they were in 2023, and I do think you have to amount a lot of their success to Sam Darnold. But if he didn't stay with the Vikings, I could really see Sam Darnold being a good fit for the New York Giants, and this is really with a lot of his deep passes and being described by many as having the strongest arm in the league. I do think that Malik Neighbors would be a good fit for him, given what Darnold did with Justin Jefferson. I really think that Malik Neighbors could be a good first option for Sam Darnold. But you also have Brian Daboll as their coach, who was really good with Josh Allen. So while Darnold doesn't have the speed that Allen does, I really think in terms of arm strength and their similar play style besides the running, that he could be a really good fit there. And then the next option would be Justin Fields. At just 25 years old, I do think that he is a great option, especially looking at what he did in 2024. Regardless of his career in Chicago, I do think his 4-2 start before getting replaced by Russell Wilson for the Steelers was something that was pretty impressive. And I would say that that's really a good spot for where you'd want to be 6 games into the season. And also just looking at the speed, the mobile quarterback is definitely something that's continuing to grow in the NFL. And I do think we have seen a lot of improvements with Justin Fields last year, and whether this is due to a new organization around him, but I do think in terms of just overall ability, he did demonstrate a much better presence under center. I think we saw a lot better decisions when pressured, and even though the Steelers did win a lot of close games under him, I do think he would be a good fit to stay for the Steelers next year, because we already saw that he was successful there, and I think in terms of having a little bit better mobility than Russell Wilson, this could be something that the Steelers build off of in terms of their run threat, since they do already have a good committee in terms of both Harris and Warren. So since he is already familiar with their system and he would be a lot younger to really develop over time, I do think he would be a better option than Russell Wilson, and I would like to see how that would play out. But then going to the third option here, I would have Cooper Rush. Is 31, so I wouldn't say he's anywhere near his retirement age in the NFL, and I really think looking at his overall record is something that does need some consideration. And I really would say that he didn't look half bad in terms of taking over for Dak Prescott. I would say in terms of just last season, there were definitely times where he did look better than Prescott, but since Prescott is their franchise guy, I could likely see him with another team. And in terms of what he did last year, you have some impressive wins over the Commanders and the Buccaneers. I think he definitely showed promise. And in terms of his play style, I could see him being a good fit with the Las Vegas Raiders. In terms of his more short to medium style passes, I think this could be a great fit for Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers. And then my fourth option would be Malik Willis at just 25 years old, but I do think in just the short run that he had in the Packers in terms of filling in for Jordan Love last year was something that was really impressive. And in terms of his earlier career with the Tennessee Titans, he really only had a couple of games where he got the chance to start. So I definitely think he's someone who could have a lot of room to grow. But in terms of what he did with the Packers and those starts where Jordan Love was injured, I think is something that could really demonstrate his ability in addition to him being a mobile quarterback as well and really having exceptional speed, and not just speed in terms of the red zone, but really having the ability to run for 30 or 40 yards. So I do think in terms of his destination, if he wanted a starting job, I could see him being a good option for the Cleveland Browns. I think in a similar scheme to what they were trying to run with Deshaun Watson. And in terms of who they have already, Jerry Jeudy being a deep threat could be a good match with Malik Willis. And if the Browns are projected to draft someone like Travis Hunter, that could be another great deep threat. And we also know that Stefanski likes a strong running game. So in terms of having a mobile quarterback, Malik Willis could be a great option there as well. And then my fifth option, this is someone who I think should also stay with his current team, is Bryce Young, and really just being only 23 years old. Really, I think the story for Bryce Young is how he looked after returning last season after being benched for a few games. And he really showed a lot of promise in that, and not only his statistics, but also winning 4 games after that. You have impressive wins against the Falcons to end the season, as well as the Cardinals, who were definitely looking to make a playoff run and definitely showed a lot of promise last year. But really, I think his touchdown to interception ratio was something that really speaks to his potential there. And I think just sticking it out in Carolina would be the best move for not only him, but also for the organization, because again, just due to being familiar with their system already. And since he was their 2023 first round draft pick, I think you owe it in terms of that investment to see that play out a little bit longer. And number 6, I think this is a little bit of an interesting one, but I do think that Jimmy Garoppolo deserves another year as a starting quarterback, just really given what he did with the 49ers. I think something that really speaks out for Jimmy Garoppolo is having a 4-2 record in the playoffs with the 49ers. And those 2 losses really have to be taken with a grain of salt, because one would be the Super Bowl loss to the Chiefs, and the other would be the NFC Championship loss to the Rams, who went on to win the Super Bowl. So I really think that Jimmy Garoppolo, not only in terms of showing what he did in terms of turning the 49ers season around when he took over there in 2020, but also having a lot of playoff success, I think that's definitely something that's hard to find in the NFL. And just in comparison to the probably about 9 or 10 guys that are currently in the NFL that have just been to a Super Bowl, that's definitely a limited number. So I think Jimmy Garoppolo could be a good option to fill into a system that did need a quarterback. And I do think you do have the injury concern. That's why you have Brock Purdy taking over for the 49ers, was due to Garoppolo's injury. And then you do have a rough season with the Raiders on top of being injured there. But I think only at 33 years old, he definitely has a lot of years left in terms of his career, if we are considering that he's healthy now. So I do think that Garoppolo could be an option for a team like the New York Jets. I think they have a pretty similar base to what the 49ers had in the past, and this would be with Aaron Glenn taking over as their new coach, who really runs a good defensive focus, and I think that's something we've always seen from the 49ers franchise. And you also have a good running game with Breece Hall, but I also think he would be a good fit with their receiving core. I don't think you're going to have Devontae Adams staying there if Aaron Rodgers leaves, but in terms of someone like Garrett Wilson, who has a really big catching radius, I do think that Garoppolo could be a good fit there. And they don't have really any super speedy receivers that would be a mismatch for Garoppolo in terms of him being a lot better in terms of those quick passes and that higher completion rate. So I think that could be interesting. And then going to the last guy on this list, I do think that you have to give Russell Wilson another chance here. Looking at that chart with Jimmy Garoppolo, he is not only someone that has been to the Super Bowl, who's on an active roster, but someone who is a Super Bowl champion. And at 36, I don't think he's quite at the end of his career yet. And just looking at what he did last year, played a pivotal role in getting the Steelers to the playoffs. He did win 7 of those 11 wins. And also looking in the past, you did have him getting the Seahawks to the playoffs a lot. In addition to just what he did last year, I would say that his win against the Ravens, even though that was a more low-scoring game, but also his win against the Commanders is something that was pretty promising for showing that he still has the ability to play. And I think that Wilson could be a great fit for a team such as the Tennessee Titans. I think that Brian Callahan is a big passing guy, so I think that Wilson and him could work well together. I think in terms of Calvin Ridley, that could be a great option, similar to how we saw a lot of success with Wilson and George Pickens. And also you have a similar committee or dual threat running backs with Pollard and Spears to like what you saw in Pittsburgh. So I think for a lot of those reasons, Russell Wilson could be a good option there. And in terms of the Tennessee Titans, I really think that that would be a huge upgrade or well worth giving him a full season or a half a season. But I think for all of these guys, I just really think that seeing them a little bit longer in a starting role would be really interesting. But feel free to let me know your thoughts on these guys or where you think they should go, and I'll see you later.